Magazine Athlete of the Year, probably because she was hurt and probably because she was last year's Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. Well, I'm here to tell you they decided to go with another WNBA star. That was A'ja Wilson. Now, A'ja Wilson, to me, shouldn't have got it, bro. She got help from the WNBA referees throughout the whole entire season. Everybody act like they forget that. I mean, they hella cheated against the Fever, pretty much causing
Watch that.
Right, so let's talk about energy for a second, because this isn't just some casual observation or throwaway commentary we're dealing with here. No, this is real, raw frustration that's been building up in real time, and you can feel it radiating through every single conversation about this topic. What you're about to witness is one of those defining moments where an entire fan base, millions of passionate supporters who've been watching every game and tracking every stat, suddenly had this collective realization hit them like a ton of bricks. And that realization, no matter what Caitlin Clark accomplishes on that court, no matter how many records she breaks or how many seats she fills in arenas across the country, there's this segment of the WNBA establishment that will absolutely never, and I mean never, give her the credit she deserved. It's like watching someone score 50 points in a game and having people say, yeah, but let's talk about everyone else instead. Time Magazine just dropped their 2025 Athlete of the Year announcement, and they named A'ja Wilson to that prestigious spot. Now, here's the thing. The honor itself, that recognition of her athletic excellence, that's not what sparked this massive controversy that's got everyone from casual fans to sports analysts fired up right now. No, what really got people talking, what really divided the basketball world into camps that are arguing across social media and sports talk shows, was what Wilson actually said in that interview about Clark. Those specific comments are what has the entire basketball community split right down the middle at this very moment.
Calling Caitlin Clark only 5% of the growth of the WNBA, pretty much saying that they was going on an upward trajectory before Caitlin Clark got there. Now, here's my answer to it all. I've been following this thing for the last like 2.5 years, almost 3 years, and the WNBA died when Caitlin Clark genre took a hit this past season. Caitlin Clark only playing 13 games ultimately killed the WNBA viewership. Look at everybody's numbers. Like the numbers don't lie. Had Caitlin Clark balled out and had a spectacular season and the Indiana Fever won the WNBA championship.
Here's what actually happened.
Time Magazine published their big feature piece on December 11th, 2024, and look, A'ja Wilson earned her third MVP award, which is absolutely impressive by any standard. Plus, she picked up her second Olympic gold medal in Paris, where she was named tournament MVP on top of everything else. Those accomplishments are 100% legitimate and genuinely impressive, and I want to be clear here, nobody with any sense is actually disputing the validity of those achievements or what Wilson has done for the game. But here's where things get interesting. And by interesting, I mean controversial. Buried deep in that article, tucked away in a way that a lot of people initially missed until fans started dissecting every word, was this statement that basically reduced Caitlin Clark's entire impact on the her whole revolutionary effect on the league's visibility and popularity, to just 5% of the league's overall growth. Let me repeat that, 5%. The exact quote from the article, and this is important because the wording matters here, claimed that Clark was almost singularly responsible for salvaging the league, whose foundation had been built by a mostly black player base. Now that specific phrasing, that word salvaging, that implies something pretty significant. It suggests that the WNBA was actively failing, circling the drain, desperately in need of rescue before Clark arrived on the scene. And Wilson's response to that particular narrative, her reaction to how Clark's impact was being framed in relation to the league's history, that's where this whole situation gets really complicated and starts revealing some deeper tensions that have been simmering under the surface for a while now.
Next year to see how Caitlin Clark ball out and to see if Caitlin Clark's going to be the same Caitlin Clark we remember her to be at Iowa. Now, there was pictures going around yesterday, which we reported on, of Caitlin Clark losing a bunch of weight. Caitlin Clark looking like the old Caitlin Clark she was at Iowa. She lost all the muscle. It's all gone. I believe the muscle could have contributed to Caitlin Clark getting hurt this year. But that's neither here or there. I don't want to keep beating a dead drum. Now, with that being said, we know Caitlin Clark was one of the most Googled people.
Let's be completely clear about what the actual numbers show, because this isn't about feelings or narratives or anyone's personal opinion about who deserves credit for what. When Caitlin Clark went down with her knee injury in July 2024, which was this devastating moment for her and her fans, WNBA viewership didn't just dip slightly or experience a minor decline. No, it absolutely dropped by 48% in the game she missed. Think about that for a second. Not 5% like some people want to claim, but 48%, which is nearly half of the audience, just vanishing. The Indiana Fever's average viewership during Clark's rookie season was pulling in 1.78 million viewers per game, which for the WNBA is absolutely massive, like historically unprecedented numbers. But when she was injured and forced to miss 13 games, sitting on the sidelines while her team played without their star attraction, their viewership completely collapsed to just 394,000 viewers. Let me put that in perspective. That's a 2/3 decline, a catastrophic drop that any network executive would be panicking about. ESPN, in what seems like an attempt to soften the blow and make the numbers look less dramatic, tried changing how they calculated ratings entirely. They started adding in streaming numbers that they hadn't previously counted in their official viewership metrics. Also, they could claim that viewership only dropped 5 to 6%, which technically might be true if you completely change your methodology mid-season. But here's the thing. Anyone who is actually tracking the game-by-game numbers, the people who were watching this unfold in real time and comparing week-to-week data, saw the true impact clear as day.
Only part I found to be shocking was how far down she was. Now, this was the most Googled people in all of 2025. Now, I did a video on my other channel because, you know, I do support Shedeur Sanders, big advocate for him. So this was good for him, you know what I'm saying, and his brother Shiloh Sanders to be on this list. But this is bad for Caitlin Clark not to be in top 5 or top 10.
Great for Sophie Cunningham. Seriously. Good for her and her success. Now here's where Wilson's comments to Time magazine reveal this much deeper tension that's been brewing in the league, something that goes way beyond just stats and viewership numbers. She told the magazine, and this is a direct quote, "It wasn't a hit at me because I'm going to do me regardless. No matter what anyone says or what narratives people push, I'm going to win the MVP. I will win a gold medal. Y'all can't shake my resume, because my accomplishments speak for themselves." It was more about, let's not lose the recipe. Let's not lose the history and the foundation that generations of players built before any of this current attention arrived. It was erased for a minute, and I don't like that at all because we have tons of women, incredible athletes who paved the way, that have been through this league's struggles and growth over decades. That statement right there, that specific framing, positions Clark's arrival as somehow erasing WNBA history. Like her popularity is actually damaging the league's legacy rather than building on top of the foundation that previous generations created. And that framing, that particular way of looking at the situation, it completely ignores a fundamental reality that we need to talk about honestly. The league was averaging 399,000 viewers before Clark's rookie season started, before she played her first professional game. That's not a thriving foundation of viewership that was steadily growing year over year. That's not a league that was on the verge of mainstream breakthrough. That's a league that was genuinely struggling for relevance in the crowded American sports landscape, fighting for attention against every other entertainment option available to modern audiences.
Is the most popular women's basketball player in the world. Now let's move on to the story of the hour. The story of the hour is, as soon as you type Caitlin Clark name on X, find this: fan defends Caitlin Clark passes shooting. Van Shea said it this. So this is the article that came out with A'ja Wilson being on the cover. You know, so this was it, and this is it. And I don't really care for A'ja Wilson, guys. I just got to be honest.
But the real issue here, the thing that's really got fans upset and divided, isn't just about television ratings and viewership statistics. It goes so much deeper than that. It's about how the WNBA's established players, the veterans who were already stars when Clark arrived, have actually treated the person who is directly responsible for their increased salaries, their expanded endorsement deals, and their dramatically improved visibility in mainstream sports media. Remember the physical play that Clark endured during her entire rookie season, game after game of rough treatment? The flagrant fouls that somehow went uncalled by referees who seemed to have a different standard for her than for other players. The shoulder checks and hip checks that were so obvious and so aggressive that they would have drawn immediate technical fouls or even ejections in any other context or with any other player. Wilson's Las Vegas Aces played the Fever multiple times throughout the season, and in their June 29th matchup specifically, there was this sequence that really stands out when you go back and watch the footage. Clark got fouled so blatantly on a drive to the basket, so obviously that even the broadcast crew, who usually try to stay neutral, called it out immediately, expressing surprise that no whistle was blown, no call from the refs whatsoever. Wilson scored on the other end, taking advantage of the momentum shift, and the referees let it stand without any review or second thought. That pattern, that specific dynamic of allowing rough play against Clark while protecting established stars, repeated itself throughout the entire season. The league's referees consistently protected established stars through their whistle decisions, while simultaneously allowing rookies, and specifically Clark in ways that were obvious to anyone paying attention, to absorb contact and physical punishment that would have immediately sent other players to the free throw line or resulted in flagrant foul calls.
Y'all can't shake my resume. It was more so let's not lose the recipe. Let's not lose the history. It was erased for a minute, and I don't like that because we have tons of women that have been through this, blah, 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 blah. And it goes on to say, the 2025 WNBA campaign provided a measure of vindication of many players, despite Caitlin Clark missing most of the season with an injury. Something Wilson, to be clear, did not cheer viewership for both the regular season or.
And then there's the Google Trends data that completely and totally contradicts Wilson's narrative about Clark's impact being minimal or overstated. In 2025, when you look at the actual search data that shows what people were interested in, only one WNBA player made the top 10 most Googled athletes list in the entire world across all sports. And here's the kicker. It wasn't Caitlin Clark sitting in that spot. It was Sophie Cunningham at number 7, which is fantastic for her. Clark didn't even crack the top 10 most searched athletes. Now, Wilson supporters and people who want to minimize Clark's impact will point to that specific data point and say, see, this proves that Clark's impact is completely overblown, that the media created this narrative that doesn't match reality. But here's what they're deliberately missing, what they're choosing to ignore because it doesn't fit their argument. Clark was injured for most of the 2025 season, sitting out while recovering from serious knee injuries. She only played 13 games before those knee injuries sidelined her for the remainder of the year, taking her out of the spotlight and off the court during what should have been her continued ascension. The fact that WNBA interest collapsed dramatically during her absence, that viewership numbers plummeted and casual fan engagement dropped off a cliff, actually proves the complete opposite point of what they're trying to argue. When Clark wasn't playing basketball, when she wasn't on the court making plays and drawing attention, casual fans who had discovered the WNBA through her just stopped watching. The league's core audience, the dedicated fans who've supported the WNBA through thick and thin, they remained loyal and kept watching. But that explosive growth, that mainstream breakthrough moment that brought millions of new eyeballs to the league, that completely disappeared.
Racing black women. Let me see here, because AJ Wilson said something about Caitlin Clark. Where did I see it? AJ Wilson can't stop talking about Caitlin Clark in super woke time. She still comes across as bitter, grateful. The big growth was 5% with Caitlin Clark. CC hurt. CC brought y'all new level painful that CC still has to deal with this. Yeah. They can't go without talking about Caitlin Clark, bro. I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's so.
But Wilson also told Time magazine, and this quote is really revealing about her perspective. The biggest thing for us, and I was so happy about this, is that we continue to rise to the occasion and maintain our performance level. This was just a matter of time. This growth and attention was inevitable. That statement right there reveals what I think is a fundamental misunderstanding of how media coverage and sports business actually work in the real world of modern entertainment. The WNBA had 28 full years to build mainstream relevance before Caitlin Clark arrived, before she played a single college game that started building her national profile. 28 years of incredibly talented players competing at the highest level, championship teams, delivering exciting playoff series, and Olympic gold medals being won by American women on the international stage. The league never broke through to mainstream consciousness, not with Lisa Leslie, who was charismatic and dominant, not with Diana Taurasi, who many consider the greatest player ever, not with Candace Parker, who had crossover appeal and media savvy, not with Brianna Stewart, who is an absolute force on the court. Those players are genuine legends of the game, and they absolutely deserve respect and recognition for building the foundation that made everything else possible. I'm not diminishing their contributions at all. But here's the honest truth that needs to be said. They didn't create the mainstream cultural moment that Clark generated in a single season, and pretending that this moment was just inevitable, that it was just a matter of time before the WNBA had this breakthrough, that completely ignores the reality that without Clark's arrival and the specific phenomenon she created, the WNBA was on track for another season of sub-400,000 viewer averages with no mainstream breakthrough on the horizon.
Comment section, let me know y'all thoughts about this. And I've been a person that's telling y'all this thing is not about race. They're trying to create it about race. Caitlin Clark is just a badass basketball player. You know, y'all know where I stand in it. You know, I support other black athletes. I didn't like Angel Reese, that's why I didn't support her. That don't make John a liquidator or racist. I just don't like her. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just simple as that. But guys, get down in the comment section. Let me know y'all thoughts about this. Keep them bells on. Like always, shake the headers off. I'm out of here.
Here's what makes this entire situation so incredibly frustrating for Clark supporters. For the millions of fans who discovered the WNBA through her and now feel invested in both her success and the league's future. Caitlin has consistently, repeatedly, and genuinely elevated and praised the black women who built the WNBA over decades of hard work and dedication. In multiple interviews throughout her rookie season, she specifically and deliberately credited players like Cheryl Swoops, who was a pioneer, Tamika Catchings, who represented excellence, and Maya Moore, who sacrificed her career for social justice, for paving the way and making it possible for players like her to have professional opportunities. After the Time magazine controversy erupted and started trending on social media with everyone arguing about her impact and value, Clark posted on Instagram on December 12th, "Playing other sports is so good for my mind and body," she captioned along with photos of herself playing golf and enjoying life away from basketball. She was completely removed from the drama, not engaging with the controversy at all. That's her response to being diminished by the league's MVP, to having her impact reduced to 5% by established players. She's not engaging with the negativity, she's not fighting back on social media, she's not issuing statements defending herself. She's just existing in her own space, living her life and playing golf, while others debate her value and argue about her impact on the sport. But that's the thing about beat reporters and media narratives and how sports journalism work. They don't care about Clark's grace under pressure or her consistent elevation of other players who came before her. They care about the story, about the conflict and controversy that drives click. And the story that Time magazine chose to tell, the narrative they decided to push, is that A'ja Wilson represents the real WNBA, the authentic league that existed before mainstream attention. While Caitlin Clark is just a temporary ratings boost, a flash in the pan who somehow erased the league's history by being too popular too fast, by bringing too much attention in ways that made some people uncomfortable. Think about the impossible position this puts Caitlin in, the no-win situation she's navigating. She can't defend herself or point to her obvious impact without being accused of centering whiteness in a league built by black women. She can't point to the objective ratings data that clearly shows her effect without being labeled as diminishing black excellence and the achievements of players like Wilson. She can't even celebrate her own accomplishments, her own historic rookie season, without someone like Wilson giving an interview that frames her impact as overblown and her attention as undeserved. So what's she supposed to do in this situation? The answer, apparently, based on how she's handling it, is post pictures of herself playing golf and enjoying life. Let the numbers speak for themselves because they tell an undeniable story, and just keep being gracious while others argue. And here's the thing about those numbers that nobody can really argue with. The WNBA's new media rights deal, the one that's going to fund the league's operations and player salaries for the next decade plus, worth $2.2 billion over 11 years starting in, was negotiated in the immediate aftermath of Caitlin Clark's rookie season, when networks had fresh data about what she could deliver in terms of viewership. That deal is worth approximately $200 million per year, which is a massive increase compared to the previous deal that was worth only $60 million per year. That's a 233% increase in value, more than triple the previous amount. Now, A'ja Wilson's 3 MVP awards absolutely contribute to the league's overall value and its credibility as a legitimate professional sports product. Nobody's denying that. Did Breanna Stewart's championships and consistent excellence matter in those negotiations? Of course they matter. But here's what we know for a fact. The media companies writing those massive checks, the executives at Disney and NBC and Amazon who were approving these deals, specifically cited Clark's impact on ratings and her ability to draw casual viewers when justifying the increased investment to their boards. Those companies didn't triple their financial commitment because of historical appreciation for the WNBA's fashion or respect for what previous generations built. They did it because Clark proved something that had never been proven before, that the league could draw casual viewers in massive numbers, that it could compete for mainstream attention. Wilson's comment about the 5% growth during Clark's injury absence is technically accurate if you only look at the manipulated ESPN ratings that included streaming platforms they'd never counted before in their official metrics. But if you look at the actual game-by-game viewership numbers that independent media tracking services recorded, the ones that maintained consistent methodology, the picture is completely different and tells a much more dramatic story. Fever games without Clark averaged 394,000 viewers, which are respectable numbers by the WNBA's historical standards and better than what many teams typically draw. But they're nowhere near, not even in the same universe as the 1.78 million average that Fever games drew when Clark was healthy and playing. The league didn't maintain Clark's growth during her absence, like some people want to claim. They reverted almost immediately to their pre-Clark baseline, the numbers they'd been getting for years before she arrived. Now here's where this gets particularly awkward for Wilson and Time magazine and anyone pushing this narrative. The article positioned Wilson as someone fighting against Clark's narrative dominance, protecting the league from this overwhelming focus on one player. But Wilson herself has benefited enormously and undeniably from Clark's impact on the league's visibility. Wilson's social media following increased by 42% during the 2024 season when Clark was drawing all this attention. Her endorsement deals expanded with new brands reaching out. Her jersey sales rose significantly. The Aces playoff games drew significantly higher ratings than previous years when they'd won championships, largely because casual fans who discovered the WNBA through Clark and got invested in the league stuck around to watch the playoffs even when Clark's team wasn't playing. Wilson is quite literally earning more money, reaching more fans, and enjoying greater mainstream recognition because of the audience Clark brought to the league. And yet, the framing of the Time magazine piece positions her as somehow protecting the WNBA from Clark's influence, like that influence is a threat rather than an opportunity. The 5% claim also completely ignores international growth, which is huge for the league's future. WNBA League Pass subscriptions from outside the United States increased by 63% during Clark's rookie season. As international fans discovered the league, merchandise sales in international markets jumped 89%. The league's social media engagement from non-US accounts grew by over 200% in some cases. Those numbers aren't because of gradual historical growth or the natural evolution of the league's international presence. They're specifically because Caitlin Clark became a global sports phenomenon and international fans wanted to watch her play, wanted to buy her jersey, wanted to follow the league she was in. When she went down with the knee injury and disappeared from the court, those international metrics dropped by an average of 56% almost immediately. The WNBA's first real moment of global mainstream relevance, its breakthrough into international consciousness, evaporated when Clark left the court. Wilson's statement about not losing the recipe reveals a fundamental tension within the WNBA's player base that's been building for a while. There's a faction of established players who view Clark's popularity as a threat to the narrative they've built about the league's growth trajectory and their own roles in that growth. They want credit for building the foundation, which they absolutely deserve and should receive. But they also want credit for the explosive 2024 growth that objectively happened because of one player's impact. You can't have both things. The foundation matters tremendously. The catalyst matters tremendously. But they're different things that deserve different recognition. Acknowledging Clark's unprecedented impact doesn't erase A'ja Wilson's 3 MVPs or her Olympic gold medals, or her scoring records. It just accurately describes what happened when a generational talent entered the league and brought millions of new fans with her. What makes this particularly frustrating for people watching this unfold is that Wilson could have taken the high road here. She could have said something like, "Caitlyn's impact has been incredible for all of us, and I'm grateful that more people are watching the league I've worked so hard to elevate." Instead, the Time magazine piece frames her as defending the WNBA against the Clark narrative, as if those two things are in opposition, as if Clark's success somehow threatens Wilson's legacy. They're not in opposition. Clark's success and Wilson's success can absolutely coexist. The league can honor its history while celebrating its present. But that requires the established players to acknowledge reality rather than minimizing the most impactful rookie season in WNBA history. This dynamic is going to continue into the 2026 season, assuming there's no lockout from the CBA negotiations that are currently happening. Clark will return from her knee injury, hopefully at full strength. The Fever will once again be the league's biggest draw in terms of viewership and attendance. And players like Wilson will have to decide whether they're going to embrace the rising tide that lifts all boats, that benefits everyone in the league, or continue positioning themselves as guardians of a history that Clark never tried to erase. The Time magazine article could have celebrated two great players having historic seasons in the same year, could have positioned them as complementary stars driving the league forward together. Instead, it created a false narrative that one player's success somehow diminishes another's legacy. So here's the question you need to answer in the comments section below. Was A'ja Wilson wrong to frame Caitlin Clark's impact as only 5% of the WNBA's growth? Or is there a legitimate argument that the media overcredited Clark while ignoring the foundation that Wilson and others built over decades? Because this conversation isn't going away anytime soon. The 2026 season is going to force this discussion again when Clark returns, and how the league's established stars treat Clark when she comes back from injury. How they acknowledge or don't acknowledge her impact will define whether the WNBA continues its growth trajectory into mainstream relevance or reverts to the pre-2024 baseline that nobody, not the players, not the owners, not the fans, wants to go back to. Let me know what you think about this whole situation. And if you want more WNBA analysis that actually looks at the numbers instead of just pushing narratives, hit that subscribe button below. I'll see you in the next one.